mnemonics of the internet. Today I'm going to be making one of these beauties. Something very similar to this. Actually, this is one of my large dragons, and my dragon video is one of the most popular videos that I made, but it wasn't a super great tutorial, so people were asking for a little bit better one. So I am in the process of making a better one tutorial, but I thought since I had to make one, I would just go ahead and do a live. So I don't know if anybody's even going to watch this, but I thought it would be fun. I wonder where you can see. Oh, yes, I can see there's 0 people watching. That's nice. But that's all right. So these are the rings that I'm going to use for the body of the dragon. And I hope that my microphone is even working. Oh, it is. That's nice. So I have these rings, and they are 16 gauge 1/4. And so this is what I'm going to use for the body of the dragon, which is usually what I end up doing first. So the beginning of the process, of course, after deciding what color you're going to do, is opening and closing lots and lots of rings. So I'm going to do that, right now. And these dragons that are on the table, some of them are actually for sale on my Etsy. I have an Etsy shop where I sell these dragons. So right now I'm doing a custom order. And so this dragon is going to end up being black, blue, light blue, and purple. So actually well, it's not as similar of a vein as like this guy. He has light blue, but it's a little bit different. And so here we go. I don't know if I'm going to do the full dragon or not on here. It just kind of depends on what I feel like. So I'm going to do, I need 20 open rings and 40 closed rings. So that's what you're going to need first. Is again, this is the 1/4 anodized aluminum, and that will be there we go. And yeah, so the 1/4 16 gauge aluminum, 40 closed, and 20 open. And that's because we're just going to do a European foreign one. Usually my rows look nicer, except my cloth is super wrinkly, so that's a little bit sad. And here we are. So yes, as I was saying, the dragon's on the table. The ones to my right are actually for sale, so first come, first serve. And this little guy, so as you can see, I kind of have some different sizes here. The one that I'm making right now is the large dragon. It's the largest one I currently make, although I am hoping that maybe I will be able to make an even larger one in the future. We shall see. But right now, this large dragon is the largest ones that I'm going to make. So the green one and the black bodied one that I showed you, those are both the large dragons. So that's what we're going to make right now. And yeah, I'm also using this cloth because it's much easier to grab the rings than off of a hard surface. Excuse me, you can grab them, but it's much easier to get under them and get in the right position that you want to be for opening and closing them if you kind of have a little soft surface to start on. Oh, there's someone live. Can you actually hear me? Because I don't know if my microphone is working properly, but hello. Yeah, so right now I'm just making a chainmail dragon, and I'm making this large one. So one similar to how this one looks. Oh, hi, Dave the poet. Um, so I'm making one house similar. Can you actually hear me? I don't know if my microphone is working, but I'm making the this dragon, or a similar one in different colors. So that's the large one, and yeah. So I'm just doing 20 open and 40 closed, and that's the first step in the dragon making process. Thank you, Dave, for confirming that. This is my, I guess I have done YouTube Live once before, as you remember, um, or you might remember, but I have not done it on this channel with this setup, so I'm glad that it's working out and you can hear me. Oh, and thank you for giving me a like. So let's see. I like to usually line them up in rows of 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So one more, and that way I can keep track of how many are opening, how many rings I'm opening and closing without actually having to recount them every 5 seconds. So as you can see, we've got 10, so we're halfway there, and a quarter way there for the closed. And so I forget exactly how things I worked it out. Maybe I can add it in the end, add it up in the end. But I'm pretty sure that, um, yeah, I did math one time, but I can tell you the exact amount of rings of each kind of ring you're going to need. I'm actually going to use 3 types of rings. So this is the first one, and this is the ring that you'll need the most of. So yeah, I don't want to misspeak, but you'll need the most of these rings. I think somewhere between 2 and 300, though I can't quite remember, of these 1, 4, 16 gauged rings. And then there's 2 other sizes, a larger ring and a smaller ring that you'll need. And so I will use those. This is the body of the dragon that I'm making now, but I will use the small rings for the accents and the tail and the head, and also the large rings for the tail and the head as well. Because as you can see, this tail kind of tapers off. So then these are the small rings, these are the medium rings, and these are the large rings. So it's all the same formation, it's just the ring sizes that change in shape. So as soon as I'm done opening and closing all of these rings, it looks like I am halfway, as long as I didn't miscount. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So yeah, as you can see, I'm not opening and closing quite all the rings because some of the rings are actually already opened or closed. And that's because I sometimes I'll just open and close rings and I'm too lazy to count, and so sometimes I'll have leftovers, and so I just dump them back in there. Or I think sometimes I'll take things apart if I need rings and I decide I want to cannibalize something. So some of these are actually already open or closed, but all of the rings come in this sort of state. Um, I don't know if it's going to focus, but you can kind of see. So all the rings come in with this half open, half closed kind of state. And so you either, in order to use them, you either have to open them fully or close them fully. So for example, that was at half open. And now we have this one, which is closed. You can see it's completely smooth. And then, of course, you have the ones that are open, which look like this. You want them about this open, I find. Um, Sometimes I will open them a little bit more for the wings, but I'll get to that later, maybe. Um, if I don't get too tired to do all of this in one sitting. But that's about how much I open them. And I feel like that's the best kind of place. So, and oh, also these are saw cut and not machine cut. So when you buy rings, you can either buy them, most of them I would say are probably saw cut by default. And you can kind of look to see look at the pictures and you can tell if they're saw cut or machine cut. And what that means is that um, I don't think I have any machine cut. I think, well, actually, I do have a couple over there. Um, but machine cut rings are cut by I think a big saw, basically. So it's a big saw machine, and they're cut with that. And so the edges are very straight. You can kind of see there. But machine, or sorry, I messed it up. Saw cut rings are the ones cut by saws. Duh. Machine cut rings are the ones that are cut with basically lasers, I believe. And so that kind of means that it kind of melts a little bit. And so basically it's not quite as pristine and nice as the saw cut rings. The machine cut rings do tend to be a little bit less expensive, so that is their big whoop-de-doo, I guess. But and for some things they're fine. Like, I don't know, if you're making like a giant chainmail set of armor, like, it probably doesn't really matter because no one's probably going to notice. But if you're making something more like fine jewelry, then people generally will notice, might notice if you're making um yeah, if you're making fine jewelry, because they're looking very, it's something very small and they're looking at it very closely. So that that is machine cut. So all of the rings that I use will be saw cut. And probably most of the rings you buy will be saw cut because it's really not that much less expensive to machine cut. So I think most people just do the saw cut. But it is possible to find machine cut still. Oh, and I get all of my well, I get some of my rings from the Ring Lord, um, which their website is awful. But they do have pretty good rings, and they're pretty reliable. Um, and they are the cheapest kind of place you can go, or at least that I've found. If you know of anywhere else, let me know. That you can buy rings, but unfortunately, they no longer carry the shiny anodized aluminum. They're only doing the matte anodized aluminum, and I like using the shiny ones. These ones here are shiny, so you can see that they're shiny. Whereas the matte ones are not shiny. So, um, that's a little sad. And I don't really understand because everyone else, literally, no one carries matte. Everybody carries shiny. So I don't know why they decided to carry matte and then discontinue the shiny. Like, I would understand if they wanted to do, um, like, do the matte on top of doing the shiny. I don't know. My only theory is like maybe a machine broke down or something and they don't want to pay to replace it. I don't know, man. Um, but it just kind of baffles me because that's what most people seem to use. So, but oh well. Now I order from. I've tried ordering from several different places. I don't know which one I like the best yet, but sadly they're all more expensive. So that's very sad. But on a more positive note, I'm almost finished opening and closing all of the rings that I need to do for the body. And again, we're just going to do a European 4-in-1 um, with these opened and closed rings. So, oh, actually, I misspoke. We're going to need 42 of these. Whoops, not open. Just going to put that over there because we'll need it later. Of these closed rings. So we're going to need 42. So there we go. 42 and 20. So, if you don't want to count the closed rings, you also cannot do that. I'll show you in a second. It really only matters you count the open ones because what you're going to do is you're going to take your open one if you don't know how to do a European 4-in-1 already. And you're going to take 4 of these rings and put them around the one. That's why it's called a European 4-in-1, because you're putting 4 rings in 1 ring. So after you close that, so you've got 4 rings on top, or not on top, connected to, you got 4 rings connected to this, and then you kind of lay them out so they're like in this little kind of buggy shape. And as you can see, so this one is tilted downwards. See how it's under these top 2 rings? You can also flip it over. It doesn't really matter, but you have to know like, it doesn't really matter if you have it one way or the other way, but you have to know which way it's going. So I usually do the bug like this, and so the top of the middle ring is facing toward me. You can kind of see that. So then you take another open ring like this, and you trace this. It's a little hard to explain, but you kind of, you've already have 2 rings on here. Oh, or 0, depending on how klutzy you are. Now I've messed everything up. Okay, here you go. You got 2 rings on here, so now you need to put 2 more rings on here to do a European 4-in-1. So see how that goes down and up a little bit? See how it's up here? So you're going to go down a little, I've been told a little bit like a dolphin, and then back up through the other ring in the same fashion as the other one, and then close it. I'm going to do it again. I know it's a little hard to see. It's even hard to see in person. Some people say it's like a dolphin. Some people say it's just in and out. But anyway, so it starts to look like that. Oh, hello. I don't know if this is a new person or the same person, but welcome to the stream. I'm just currently starting on making the body of the dragon, which will, in theory, look something like this when it's all done. So I'm making the body, so this bottom part right now that connects the whole thing together. So I'm just doing my European 4-in-1, and as soon as I untangle these, doing my European 4-in-1, I have my 2 rings on here, and then I'm just going down and up, connecting to those 2 rings to create, and then connecting to the other 2 and making 4. All right, so I'm just going to show that one more time. Oops. So you're just going to show that one more time. So you take your 2 rings, and I messed up my beautiful organization because I keep dropping it so many times. But you have these 2 rings on the end, and you have these 2 here. And so down through this ring, up through the other ring. And if it looks backwards when you put it on, like it looks like it starts going in a different direction, that just means that you did it in the wrong order. So instead, if you went like down and up through the ring, then you need to go up and then down through the ring. So if that happens to you, if these start looking wonky, that's what's going on. And so as you can see, we're starting to get a little snaky bit there. And then we just do the rest of these 20, well, now it's like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 16 rings. That's not closed. do the rest of these 16 rings. And that's why I was saying you didn't necessarily have to count all of the closed rings, and you also will need more closed rings in the future. I mean, you're going to need more open rings too, but I don't like to stop every 2 seconds and count how many rings I put on this snake. So I just like to do 20 open rings to start, and then I know when to stop. But we are going to need more open and more closed rings after this. But if you don't want to count, again, like I said, if you don't want to count how many rings that you're closing, you can just count the open ones. And if you have some left over of your closed rings, it doesn't matter. You'll need more of them to finish this dragon. As long as you don't have a ridiculous amount more, you definitely need more, because we also use these for we use closed rings for the wings, closed rings of this size for the wings, closed rings for the tail, and closed rings for the head as well. So we have, not sure what to talk about, especially because I'm not sure who's on the stream. I mean, there's only one person, but I'm not sure if it's still Dave the Poet or if it is someone else entirely, someone new that I don't know. So this part goes pretty fast, and as you can see, it's already getting pretty long. However, this is going to shrink down during our second step, and this second step will require a bunch, about 40, I believe, open rings of the same type. Oh, it is Dave who's back. Hello. Yeah, I think it might just be you and me, Dave. I don't think anyone else is coming. I thought I might get a couple in and out here and there, but I don't know how YouTube promotes these kinds of streams, and I don't have very many subscribers, so that's okay. I'll still upload it later. I think it's still a nice tutorial. Alright, so we're almost done with this step. And now we're going to move on. And we're going to, and we're going to have to open a bunch more rings. And you can open and close rings as you go, but I find that it's much faster if you open them and close them beforehand. I don't know, maybe it's not any faster, but I think that it is. Oh, did I miss one? I don't know how I missed one. I only have 20, right? See how annoying it is to have to count them? Ugh. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, so we still need one more. So I'm not sure how I did not do one in, but oh well. Okay. So now we have a very long, this is the base of the body of the dragon. Oh, hello, Dave. I have been fairly well. I've been trying to teach myself YouTube. That's really great that you're learning the piano. I used to play piano back in the day when I was really young, but it was my brother that kind of took that up. So he plays piano very well now. And then I played violin for a little while, but I don't know. I said I would play it for a year and then I would try it. My grandmother gave me my great uncle's violin, I believe. And so I did try it for a year. And I wasn't that great at it, but wasn't terrible at it either. But I decided that I didn't want to continue to do it because I didn't like practicing every day. And I also wasn't a huge fan of how me playing the violin sounded in my ear, especially because it was so close to my ear. So I decided to pursue other things, like learning how to make chainmail. um, but it's really great that you're learning how to play piano. I do kind of sometimes I think about trying to go back to an instrument because it is a really neat skill, but then I remember that I have to practice like a lot. Like it's not like I feel like it's not like other things. Like with this, I've done this a lot and I practice over and over, but it's not something that you practice every day, I guess. It's more of something that you just kind of learn over time. I don't know, maybe all things are like that, but I feel like there's a lot of pressure with music that like, oh, you have to practice like 5 hours every day, or I mean, maybe not that extreme, but I mean, that you have to practice so much every day. And I don't know. I just didn't like that pressure, I guess. It's also music teachers are kind of expensive, but that's really cool that you're teaching yourself. I'm sure there's a lot of good tutorials on YouTube and stuff now. How are you teaching yourself? Are you like doing tutorials or just books or things like that? I learned chainmail by well, I did take a class. I took a chainmail class, kind of like an introductory class. And the lady was like, okay, so we're going to learn some basic things. Like she taught us the European foreign one, stuff like that. And we're going to learn some basic things, but you're going to need to pick a project, and you can pick any one of these project kits from the Ring Lord, and I'll kind of help you through it. Um, and so she was like, okay, so there's like this one, you could do like a cross or like a star or like a necklace, or I mean there's a dragon, but that one might be too hard. And I was like, dragon? Excuse me? Hold the phone. There's a dragon? Because I love dragons. In case you haven't noticed that already. I mean, none of you know me, but I mean Dave kind of knows me. Dave is nice. But I love dragons. So I decided that I would do a dragon, even though I had really no experience with chainmail. And it kind of went from there. My first dragon was terrible. It had a ton of mistakes in it. And it took me like, I think it took me like 7 hours or something ridiculous. And it was painful. Like there was all these chinks in it. Like I can show you like this next step that I'm about to do is a step that I made a lot of mistakes on, so it's not completely smooth because I did it wrong. So this next step, it's not that hard once you figure it out, but if you don't know what you're looking at and you haven't done it for a while, or you haven't like done it over and over and kind of know what it's supposed to look like, then you can fall into a little bit of a trap and make it not quite perfect. Um, but yeah, so that's how I decided to make my first dragon. Also, the dragon kit that they gave us, it it was very different from the dragons that I made. So I made the dragon kit. I for the most part, followed the instructions. But at some point, I was like, I don't like how this looks. And so I basically started making my own version, and I already sold jewelry, and so I just started making chainmail dragons on top of making the jewelry. And I started selling those, and that turned out to be more lucrative than the jewelry. And so, that's kind of how I ended up here doing chainmail dragons. So this is it was originally inspired from the kit, but it's very, very different from how the kit was now. Um, and so it's kind of my own thing. And then I also made the medium version from the large version, and then of course I made the teeny tiny little babies. This took forever to figure out. You guys don't know how many, like literally months. I mean, I wasn't working on it nonstop for months because it was super frustrating, but it literally took me months to figure out how to make a teeny tiny dragon. But anyways, that's my story. Let's see. Dave says piano is a good YouTube channel. I can play several instruments, so I'm using what I know and working on skill development. Oh, that's right, because you can play guitar. I remember that. I'm pretty sure. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, Dave has his own Instagram, so that's how I know him. But I am really glad that you are working on your skill development and that it's going well for you. I wonder if there are chainmail mermaids. That Dave said that. I personally have not seen a chainmail mermaid. However, that is a great idea. Like, because you could do like little tiny scales. Like they make scales that are smaller than this. You could make. Ooh, that's a really good idea, Dave. Hmm. I don't know how you do the body without making it look creepy. I don't know. Maybe not out of chainmail. Maybe it'd be like you could do the tail out of chainmail, but you could do like the top out of cloth like a doll. I don't know. That's an interesting idea. I have not seen one. Maybe they exist, but I personally have not as of yet seen one. I might have to bring one into existence. We'll see. All right, so I'm almost done with this. All right, so now there are two ways. There's not two ways to do this. There's one right way. There's a wrong way, and there's a right way. So, basically there's two sides to this. There's two ends to this. So if you lay this out, then on one side you're going to get something like this, where you have these two, all right, and they're like this. And then on the other side, you're going to get them like this. So on one side, they're going to be floppy. They're just going to be hanging, I guess. And then on the other side, they're going to be more supported. And sometimes, depending on the rings, this will look a little different. But so what you're going to do is you're going to take the more supported side. And it's supported because there's rings underneath. So you're going to take this side, and then again, the supported side, and that's the side that you'll build the tail off of. So you're going to take the supported side, and by the way, these sides will switch if you flip it over. So keep it the same. And on the supported side is where you're going to start to do this next bit. If you started on the other side, you can, but it will turn out slightly differently and a little bit, probably a little bit stiffer, and it might still work. I mean, I've done it before. But also you can occasionally, if you can do it, because I'm going to line both sides of this. So if you do it one way and then you do it the other way for the other side, that causes issues. So I always make sure that I do it from the non-supported side. So what you're going to do is you're going to take one open ring and you're going to put it through 3 rings. So it's going to go up through the first ring. Okay? Up through the first ring. And then it's going to go back down the other 2 rings at the same time. So you see this little loop where they overlap? I'm exaggerating it for effect. But you see this little loop where these overlap? That's what you're going to put your ring through. So up through the ring and then down through the other 2 rings in that little loop that they make. And then you're just going to close it. So it should look something like this. Whoops. Man. Okay. So it should look something like this. So basically now you have a ring vertically in the rings that were flat. So, and again, the end goal is to do this for each side. It's kind of like an edging. So now I'm just going to start to do that. Right, and this is the supported side. So again, if you flip this back and forth, it will change. So try and make sure that you are always have it facing the same side, because I think I do remember distinctly one time where I did the entire side one way and then an entire side the other way. And I had to completely undo one of the sides. So that's no fun. So always make sure that it's facing the correct way. Here, now you can see a little better because I have 2. So that's what that looks like. So you're layering these on top of one another. And that's why it's important to do it all one way. Because if you started going the other way, then this ring would be on top of this ring. If that makes any sense. So it would be facing that way instead of that way. So that's why it's important to only do one side. So basically, just to show you one more time, just to make sure you got this, we go up through the first ring, down through the hole that connects the 2 rings next to it. And this is very hard to explain. And I will probably, when I do my other video on this, I will draw a diagram. I actually did explain this one part, I think, a little bit better because I made a whole little diagram in my first chainmail dragon video. So if this part is confusing you, you can go watch that, or maybe by now I will have made another chainmail dragon video. The one I'm referencing right now that I've already made is the one with the bird story, how I rescued a bird from the store where I used to work. So if you want to see a bird story and maybe learn how to do this a little better, you can totally go watch that, but not right now. I mean, because you're watching this one, if you are watching this one. Currently, there's only one person watching live, but there might be other people watching in the future. Some future goers. Some future monarchs of the internet who might stumble across this. If you do have any questions about this, even though you might not be live in the chat because you're a time traveler from the future, if you have any questions about this, you can feel free to respond to comments, because as of right now, I will respond to all of your comments. And I'm very happy when people talk to me, because then I know that people know I exist. So that's a nice feeling. Oh, that sounded more morbid than I meant it to come out to be. But yeah. So basically, you just do this along one side, and again, this is what it's looking like. So all of these kind of overlap with each other, and you can see they're all going the same way. Whenever you put a new one on, it's to the outside of the one you just put on, and it gets layered and layered and layered. So there's a couple ways you can mess this up, like I did when I first made my dragon. You can, instead of putting it on the outside, you can put it on the inside. So technically you'll still have the correct shape, but this won't be on the outside, even though you're still going through all 3 rings. You can also accidentally only hook 2 rings instead of 3. So like you can go up through the first ring, but then only go like down through the second ring and not down through the 3rd ring. I think those are the main 2 ways that I messed it up. There might be others. I'm always surprised at how human beings, including myself, can find ways to mess things up. But you kind of get a feel for how it's supposed to look eventually. And this edging is also what we're going to use to attach the scales to, which we will do with the tiny rings, which we have not yet gotten out. So this is probably, I mean, the tail can take a little while, but this is probably the bulk of the time that goes into making this. Probably this step of the body is probably the longest step. The other ones don't tend to take as long. I mean, they all take a while. I think generally, if I can finish the body in an hour, that's pretty good. Or maybe a little less than an hour. I forget exactly how I timed it out. I always say I can make these in 2 hours. I always like to think I can make these in 2 hours, but the reality is I don't think that that's actually possible. Maybe if I was really, really booking it, but I don't know if I've actually ever made one in 2 hours, even though I always say and think to myself I can make them in 2 hours. I think it's probably, whoops, whew. Yeah, don't do that or you could hurt yourself. But anyway, it's probably more around like 2 to 3 hours. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised there is only the one. Just kind of hoping for, I mean, I'm very happy I have the one viewer. But again, I kind of thought that there would be people popping in and out. Like, even if they didn't actually stay very long, that there would still be some people that were like, oh, how to make a chainmail dragon, or some of the people that subscribed to me that had previously expressed interest in learning more about how to make a chainmail dragon for themselves. But I guess not. What can you do? Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just gotta work a little harder and try again. But anywho, look, I'm halfway done. So there you go. And as you can see, this has made it shrink a lot more. So now it is the appropriate size. Looks kind of cool. But now we have to edge the other side using the other 20 rings. So, I must have had another one. I think I did have another one open on the side. Oh, I miscounted. Or maybe it only takes 19 rings and I've been lying to myself the whole time. Maybe it does only take 19. No, I think that's right. I don't need another one, so maybe I do need one more. I can't remember. Do I usually finish this out or not? Oh, I do. You do need 20 because on the very last one, you are going to, there's only going to be 2 rings left on the end, but that's okay. So you're just going to ignore the fact there's not a third ring there. And that's how you're going to finish off your thing. Alright. See? This one's only connected to 2. Focus camera, please. Nah, anyway, just take my word for it. So, oh, thank you, Dave. I'm trying to do nice work. Alright, so that's half. So now we just do the other half. And, oh, I don't know. Do you want me to talk about something, Dave? You're the only one here, so you're the 100% vote. Oh, I don't need any more rings. I already opened them all. Silly me. Alright, and now this is the part you have to make sure that you've actually start again on the correct side. So this is the side I ended on, so I know that I need to start back on this side, or all of them will be in reverse, and it will be very sad because then I would have to take them all apart, which would take forever. So we're going to start on the correct side. Thank you very much. Maybe I did start. Did I start? I must have started. I guess I did start on the correct side, technically, but now it's flipped over again. It's very confusing. Because even though I started technically on the correct side, when I started it was face down. And now it's face up. So, because that's just how these laid, because this is face up, because this part is taller. And we need that to be taller because that's what we're going to attach this goes to. So, this is the correct way. It's a lot of learning how chainmail works. That makes it a lot easier. I mean, I can explain things until you're, blue in the face, which will definitely help. But at some point you kind of learn just how it's supposed to lay, how it's supposed to look. Oh, I had to have started on this side because this ring is under that ring, and stuff like that. So it is a lot of learning. And the first several dragons I made, I think all had little mistakes in them, probably. Especially that first one was a hot mess. But the more you do it, the more you kind of get a feel for it. Oh, I should talk about cost. To make one of these, it's hard to nail down cost. For me, it costs a little bit less than it would for one of you, because you would have to buy everything from scratch. And like, maybe you could, depending on where you got your rings, you could order the exact amounts, like, down to the 100, like if you needed 300 black rings, and I'm not exactly sure if that's how many you need, but I'll put those down in the description. If you want, how many of each ring you need. But because I can buy a pack of, say, 400. I don't know if this is the exact number, but it's pretty close. Like, I can buy a pack of like 400 of these rings for $6, maybe, at the Ring Lord, which is the cheapest option. But now they don't have these rings, but it's fine. As you can tell, I'm not salty about this at all. So, but I don't need 400 rings for this dragon. It's more like 300, I believe. So not quite enough to make 2, but also much more than I need for 1. So, like 3 packs, say about 3 packs of these rings can make me, or 2 packs of these rings can make me 3 dragons. Or can be those rings, can be the medium rings that I need for the dragon. So, yeah. So, and also, like, I'll buy in bulk. Like, I'll buy 100. Like, I'll buy a pack of 100 tiny scales. You only need, like, what, 26 scales? Small scales to do the dragon. But, I'll buy a pack of a randomized 100 so that I can use them however I please with whatever dragons I use. And also, like, see how this one is a different color? This large scale. So they only come in packs of 10. So if you were to make one of these, you need 11. So you'd have to buy 2, even though you only need 1 extra. So I'll also buy packs of like 100 of these. And anywho, so it'd be a little more expensive for you than for me. For me, depending on if the scales are patterned scales or not, I want to say 20 to 30 bucks, depending, for me. I'm not 100% sure, and of course it depends on if it's a large or small dragon. I think I might have even worked it out one time, and it was like 15 bucks. But now, of course, the rings are a little more expensive because of the Ring Lord, and it does depend on if it's pattern or not, and I might have done my math wrong because that seemed a little low. But I mean, it would probably cost you like 30, depending. I'd have to do math, but you could do math. But it probably costs somewhere between like $30 to $40. Probably no more than 50 to make it. So at that point, you might as well just buy one from me, to be honest, because mine are only like 60. I mean, if it's the thrill of the journey, like if you're making one because you really want to make one, then by all means, please do. I mean, obviously, I love making random stuff all the time. Like that's literally my channel. But if you are going, or if you're like someone who's into chainmail, I could definitely see them making this. But if you're not into chainmail, I mean, I made one and I was very happy with it in my first attempt. But it wasn't the best, to be honest. I mean, with my tutorial, you'll already be way above that, obviously. But be prepared to spend, like, possibly up to 10 hours on it. Which, again, if you just want to make one because you love making stuff, then totally go for it. This is not a deterrent. But if you just want a cool dragon, hit me up. That's all I'm saying. My Etsy is Dragon Heart Cosplay, by the way. I'll probably put that in the description at some point. You can also find that on my channel too. But anywho, and I also love doing crazy projects. So if you message me and you're like, hey Liz, the large dragon isn't big enough for me. Can you make me an even bigger one? I'll be like, say no more. I'm going to figure it out if it kills me. Because I just like trying new things. You know, you only live once. I mean, obviously, there's some things that, you know, you can do your whole life without trying, but I find a lot of things, it's really fun to try more things, you know? Life's too short to not learn new things. That's why I made this channel, so I can have an excuse to learn new things, and then also teach others new things, because I think that's cool. So yeah. But anywho, looks like I'm almost done with this. 3 more, and then we can do a slightly more fun part instead of staring. Well, okay, we're gonna have a couple more black rings, but we finally get to do the fun part. I feel like the body also feels the longest because it's usually the most monotonous. Like, I mean, sometimes there is color, or like I'll do different color etching and things, but this one's just black. I mean, which is a great base. And you can do amazing things with black. But when you're just looking at black for such a long time, it's a little monotonous. I'm not gonna lie. Dave. Yes, suit of chainmail. Oof. You don't know how many times I have wanted to make a chainmail something, like a chainmail shirt, chainmail dress. It takes a long time, man. I'm gonna do it one day. I know I am. It's just a matter of when. And also, it's kind of expensive. I mean, yeah, you know, it's $5 just for a, you know, a pack of, you know, 400. But those like chainmail things, man, those take thousands and thousands and thousands of rings. It's crazy, and it takes hours and hours. That's why they're so expensive. I mean, even machined chainmail is expensive. Like just like machine chainmail, like running off a machine. It would depend. I mean, like if you use slightly bigger rings, like I would probably use this size, the size that I was doing next, because these are a little bigger. But I feel like they're still small enough. It will give you the chainmail sort of effect. But yeah, I mean, it'd be like, I don't know, but it'd be a couple $100 for the supplies, I think. Maybe not. I'd have to look. See what because you do get bulk order on, like when you buy like thousands of rings at a time. Then they give you a discount, you know? But yeah, if you want one, Dave, hit me up. We'll work something out. Make you a chainmail tunic. Give you a good deal. Just because I really want to make one. Oh, that'd be a great video. Chainmail armor. Or suit of chainmail. But it's also really cool when you pair like the chainmail with, like other, metal plates. Because that's how they did it back in the day. They did the chainmail for the more flexible bits, and then for the bits that didn't need to be so flexible, they did other. But I've seen really cool chainmail shirts. Or like tunics, Alright, so we're going to do the tail next. So we're going to need these bigger rings. And these ones are 5/16, I believe. Still 16 gauge. Alright, but here's the really cool part. This lady wanted black and purple, deep purple, I believe. Black and deep purple. But then she also wanted light blue. So I got her some light blue rings, but I also have this beautiful light blue. So, but I also have I have purple. Where is it? I really need a better organization system. Those are not tiny. Oh. Oh, I think they got all mixed up. But I have some purple. I don't know where I put that bag a second ago. But anyways, I have some of this blue. But I also have some of this purple. But I also have these large ones. And then I have these medium ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fade all of these together. And it's going to look awesome. So, first we have to do these. So we're gonna do a box chain, which was one thing I didn't understand. So this is the box chain for this dragon. Dragon tail. But the original tutorial that I got didn't use the box chain, it used Byzantine. Similar to the box chain, but you do it almost the same way, just do one thing a little differently, which is cool, and I do like the look. It gives it a very delicate, cool look to it. Again, this one is for sale. Just saying. Okay, I'll stop plugging my dragons. But I felt like the box chain gave it a more dragon look. Like, this is really pretty and cool. But when you think of dragon, I feel like this is more what you think of. So we're going to do a box chain. So now, for the box chain, you need to stop getting cramps in your legs. Whoops. My setup is pretty precarious, guys. Alright. So now, first, you're going to need even numbers of the open and the closed rings. So I'm going to take my large rings, and also we're going to need 40-ish, give or take a couple of each. So, so that means 20 open and 20 closed. Again, give or take a couple. You'll see why in a second. Well, actually not take a couple, give a couple. So it's probably more like 42. I'm pretty sure it's exactly 42. Depending on how you do it. I think using 42 will make it blend better, and I'll show you why in a second. But also because I'm doing this gradient thing, it's going to be very blended. And it's going to look seamless, and it's going to look awesome. Oh, hello, there's another person. Hello, monarch of the internet. How are you doing today? I'm just started on the tail of my dragon. So here's the body that I just made. It's a European foreign one with a fringe. Don't know if you know what that is, but and now we're just going to do the tail. So let's see. I'm gonna kind of wing this. I don't know exactly how many black versus how many purple I want. Let's see. Let's do, so I'm going to have 10 rows, because you do 10 rows of each, and in each row there's 4 rings. And hello. Oh, hello, Psy Warrior Doc. I know who you are. I did get your text. I swear I was going to respond. I was just busy doing this. So thank you for checking me out. I get it if you have other things to do, because everybody's very busy. But if you could leave a like, that would make me very happy. Is that upside down? There. And maybe YouTube will shove somebody else my way, though I doubt it. But anywho's, thank you for hopping on. And thank you very much for the like. Alright, so as I was saying, we're going to do 10 rows plus half a row, which that's what we're going to do to make it blend. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So for each row, we're going to need 2 open and 2 closed. Alright, let's see, how many more? I have some more black, but I was trying to use up what I had already out. And because I'm just using up just the few that I have left. I mean, I have another pack, but without opening another pack. Alright, so now we're just going to do some closing, and then we're going to be able to blend these. So I think we're going to go ahead, we're going to do 5. We're going to say we're going to do 5 rows. Of the black. And then we're going to start blending it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a purple into each row. So I'm going to start off the rows doing all black. Which actually that means that I have one too many, but it's okay. So I'm going to start off the rows doing 5 rows of black. And then after I do the 5 rows of pure black, then I'm going to, sorry, I'm thinking and talking at the same time, and I've already talked for like an hour, so I'm not exactly sure what I should talk about. What should I talk about at PSI Warrior? What should I talk about? What do you want to know? You just came in, so I am not sure if you're probably totally lost, actually. But I guess you came in at a pretty good time, because we're just going to start. So now we have the 5 rows of black. That's the rings we're going to need for that. But now we're going to make, we have our 2 open and our closed. But now we're going to add in another closed but purple. Don't worry about it, PSI Warrior. Oh, that's my brain right now. Anyways, so now I'm gonna do an open one and then an open purple one. So all of these are 1 row, remember? And then another purple. Have I read anything interesting lately? No. I'm not sure. I mean, I have my classes that I'm doing like an intercultural communication class, so that's kind of interesting. I'm a strat comm major. So that can be fun. Some of the stuff is interesting to me. Especially like stratcom is a lot to do with social media, so obviously I'm here. I like to do stuff like this. That's kind of part of my passion. So a lot of the social media stuff that we talk about in class, read about, is interesting to me. I like to read about different trends, the different ethics behind social media, stuff like that. I like that. That's interesting. Have you read anything interesting, PSI Warrior Doc or Dave? Let's see. All right, so we're almost done. So we just need a few more rows and we should be good to go. All right. Oh, actually, we don't need any more black. I mean, we will need a little more black later, so we'll just leave that right there. But now we're just going to use this purple, this deep purple. All right, so close. Oh, that's open. Right, it's 5. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my box chain, and hopefully I could have done a little more blending, but there's going to be so much purple, so I think this will balance it out nicely. And I'm missing just 1 more ring. Boop. Okay, so now I have everything that I need to make this box chain. And I see PSI Warrior Doc is doing a screenwriting course. What a coincidence. So am I. It's I guess it's more of it's technically screenwriting, but it's like screenwriting for comms, you know, or strategic comms. So slightly different, but basically the same. Just with an emphasis on screenwriting, like, because I guess there's like two different main formats. I don't know if you're learning both of them or not. Here, I'm just gonna take an extra ring. Okay, here, how do I do this? Guess I'm just gonna do, I'm overthinking this. I'm trying to figure out the best way to show you guys. I know how I just do it, but oh yeah, sure, that's fine. Yeah. Just let me start this, and then I will explain what I was explaining again, because I again will have nothing to talk about. So, first we're going to start with the black. Which I very much overthunk. Yeah, okay. I was trying to do this perfectly, but you know what? I'm not going to do it perfectly. I'm just going to take a random ring, and I'm going to take four of these, because I forgot you don't actually start. You actually start with 4 closed, not 2 closed and 2 open. But anyways, so all that I did was I just connected 2 on 2 on 2. See? I kind of like what we did earlier with the European 4 and 1, except we just put 2 rings in the middle, so it's just 2, 2, 2. And yeah. So now what you're going to do for the box chain is you're going to pinch those bottom 2, which you can just do 1, which is what I was trying to do, but it's too technical. So you pinch those bottom 2, and then you flip those over, 1 over, so that they're both on each side, and then you split these apart. And then you take your open ring and 2 of your other closed rings. And you go through this. See this ring? You want to go through this ring, but you want to go through this ring inside of this. So you go through this, and you attach yourself to that ring from the inside. And you do the same with the other one. And that tension creates a box, which is why it's called a box chain. The more you know. And then of course you close that, and then this will fall down. It's okay. It's not ruined. You just have to push it back up. And this will not fall down once you're done with the chain. And then you just take the second ring and you retrace the steps of the first open ring that you just did. And you basically just exactly repeat it so that it's attached to the exact 2 rings in the exact same way. And then when you grip those bottom 2 rings again, which is kind of how you get it here. Sometimes it will fall out, but it's fine. It gets easier once you start doing the chain continuously. So then you have this box. So that's one box. This is one row, what I was saying. So now you've got the second box. So you just flip it over again and then split those apart again, and you do the same thing. And you go through and you get your 2 rings, and you go through those 2 rings, and it makes a little box. And then you take your open rings once again, and you just retrace the steps of the rings you just did. And that's just about it. And the bottom can get a little messy, but once you have that under tension, when you actually attach it to the dragon, it will no longer be an issue. So now we have 2 links. So anywho, what I was saying to PSI Warrior Doc earlier is I'm also taking a screenwriting course. And so we're learning the 2 different kinds. You're probably learning, I'm guessing, the narrative format, if I'm not mistaken. And we are learning the narrative format in my class, but we're also learning the split column format. And I don't know if you're learning that one or not. The split column format is used a lot in the industry that I am going into because for several different reasons. It's a little bit more technical. It's a little bit more precise. With like the narrative format, it's, somebody writes it and then another person directs it and interprets it and actors interpret it and all these kinds of things. Whereas with which is fine because that's how production is done. But with the split column script, like every single shot is outlined, everything's in order. Um, and everything is explicitly stated. So, yeah, so we're learning both kinds, and that is also a very fun class. And I see Dave the Poet is working on his novel called Ties That Bind, and I do remember seeing something about that on Instagram. So I hope that's going really well for you, Dave. Hopefully we will get to read it soon and then talk about how interesting it is. I actually also published a book, or, well, I got published in an anthology. I haven't mentioned it on my Instagram yet. I'm planning on it. But I was proud. I was proud of it. I kind of got roped into this anthology project, and so it's an anthology about the emotions of life. So I wrote a short story and submitted a poem, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Alright, so that's 4. Now let's see. I think it's called The Indigenous Compositions. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I thought you would be just studying the narrative version. That's the version that's most. I mean, it's the one that's used most in television and stuff. The split column is done more like for commercials, and things like that. And also things where the same person is both writing and directing a film. And possibly even writing, directing, and editing a film. And that's what you submit to whoever told you to like make the video, whether it's a commercial or just something for a company or even an individual. And so with the split column, it's a lot easier to see exactly and visualize exactly what it's going to look like and exactly what you're planning on doing. Whereas the narrative method is great for storytelling and things of that nature, and for a director to come in and interpret it. But not as great for when you're presenting something to a client and you want them to have a very clear picture of what you're going to do and for them to approve it. So yeah, just different. Just different. All right, so as you can see, what I've done now is I did my 5 boxes in black, but now I've added 1 purple to the mix. So we'll see. I've faded before, and it looks pretty good. We'll just see how this one turns out. So, we have this. And then, of course, you just take these, you do the same thing. You split them, put them down to the sides, and then split these 2 apart. And then you take your thing here. Oops, and your 2 closed rings, of course. So now in this row, I've added 2 purple. So we'll see how that goes. You can also do this fade a little bit slower, but I decided to do more quick fade. You can, if you're having trouble visualizing it, you can also just, I guess a lot of times I don't actually go. Go. Yep. And then you do the same thing. You keep going. All right. So we're getting to the end of the large section. So now we have 1, 2, which we're going to make sure that the purple ring is going to be on this side. Otherwise, it'll be like a big chunk of black. So you do kind of have to pay attention to how you're positioning your rings. Yeah, that looks correct. Right, and we have this. Okay, so now as you can start to see, now I'm just going to start doing straight purple. You can see we kind of eased into the purple. Yes, that looks nice. Okay. So now we're just going to finish off, do our last 2 boxes. Sometimes I like to count the boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, just to make sure that I'm actually doing the correct amount of boxes. And I'm paranoid. I mean, it really wouldn't matter, I guess, but I like to make them all the same. All of the dragons, at least the same technically, but I like the very different colors. Each one is very different from each other because I always have different things that I'm using. All right. So now I just have 1 more, and then the transition into the last part. Not last part, I wish. The transition into the next part, the medium size of the tail. And this is something I came up with. You could not do this. You could just finish this last box chain and then switch over to the medium rings. You could just do that. But you could also blend them together, which I think makes them look a little better. So let's see. Here's an example where I actually didn't blend them together because these rings were so tight. So it also depends on how tight your rings are. Like these black rings are really, really tight. And that's because the gauge is ever so slightly thicker. Not by a whole gauge. There's still 16 gauge rings. But the slightest, tiniest difference in the gauge of the rings can affect how tight or loose it's going to be. Or like these, mega tight. Very, very tight. Like you can see how tight that is. Versus this ring, or this one, we'll use this one. Versus this one, if I hold it from the same place, look. This is the same length. Or, well, maybe this one's a tiny bit shorter. But you can see how loosey-goosey this one is compared to that one. So even though these are technically the same size rings, it can make a big difference. So I actually didn't end up blending this one, I don't think. Let's see, where's one that I did blend? Ah, here. No, that's too small. Okay, I actually don't have an example. I'll just make the example for you. So, what you're going to do is we're going to take the purple rings, okay, these are going to be our open rings. We're going to make 2. This is why I said you need 42 if you do this extra little 2 thing. So, well, thanks for checking in, PSI Warrior. I will talk to you later. Have a great day. All right. So now, when we take these 2 medium rings, and haha, now he left. We can talk about him. No, I'm just kidding. So, I know him in real life, so. Oh, anyways. So we're going to act like we're just going to do another regular box chain. But it's not going to be a regular box chain. So, you take, these are the large rings, and this is your open ring, and you, instead of doing them with large rings, you go to the medium rings. And then you do as normal. And then you take your other large ring, and you do as normal. Now you have 2 of the medium-sized rings. On the, I know, right? Aren't I so funny? Aren't I so funny, Dave? Oh, dear. What would be even funnier is if he actually went back and watched that one day. That would be hilarious. I bet he would find that hilarious. So now, as you can see, we have the large rings connected to these 2 medium rings. So we're gonna do the same thing. And there's 2 ways that this can go down. One way is slightly better than the other most of the time, unless, again, it kind of depends on how tight your rings are. But I usually, what I try to do is I tuck the 2 small rings in, just like how you would normally do. But I make sure to try and tuck them in. I nestle them into the larger rings. So instead of having them being sticking out, I try to nestle them in there. And once you split these apart, it kind of sets them in there. Ish. Now again, if the rings are too loose, it'll just pop out. But that's okay. It doesn't really matter. It's just kind of a very, very minute touch. Because I'm a very detail-oriented person. So, if you're making this for yourself, you probably don't even need to worry about this. But again, I'm going to show you how I make them. So, now we need a couple more of these. I'll open and close the rest in a minute. Yeah. We're going to need a couple more of these. Okay. Here we are. And then, of course, a few closed. Where are the rest of my purple? This is what I have all my rings in, by the way, in case you cared. It's like one of those hardware things for like screws. It's not perfect, but it's the only thing I could find. If anyone has a better solution, please let me know. But I do kind of like this because you can just take out the trays and then you can just kind of use what you need. But I don't like it because if I accidentally tip the box in any way, all of them get mixed up like this. So, oh, purple, purple, where art thou? Okay. Also, I have to like check every single container before I find the one I want. Now, this wouldn't be as much of a problem if I actually organized them, and they were organized once upon a time, but then I just kept sticking them back in random places, and now they're no longer organized. So, anywho's, that's not the point. The point being that these are now nestled into the larger rings. And now we're going to switch complete, oh man, except I don't have smaller rings. This is why it's better to, this is I guess another reason why it's better to have open and closed rings before you start doing a project. Or not before you start doing it, but you know, before each phase of the process, because then you don't have to pick up and put down your thing. So you can kind of, I guess, yeah, so you don't lose how it's situated every single time you put it down, because that can actually matter. So now I'm kind of pinching it like this because I'm trying to keep these two smaller rings still in line with the larger rings. But it's not going to work because I'm going to have to let it go. So I don't even know why I do that, because it doesn't actually work. The only thing that works is, so you can just leave it like this and it will kind of pop out, but it makes it a little bit thicker. It's a little thinner on this side, but it's a little thicker on this side. So you can leave it like this and it's still usually better blending than just straight up switching to the purple. I mean, not the purple, but then just straight up switching to the medium. But if you pinch these in again and you spread them apart again, when you put in your second ring, usually it'll stay because it'll be under more tension from the second ring. Or if it doesn't stay, if once you do it again, so if you make sure after every single thing that you're doing, if you make sure that it's going in, because then what you can do is you pinch it in and you do this, but then you create another box which puts it under tension because now there's something bigger there spreading the two rings apart. So once you get that situated, it takes a little bit of situating, but it's good. And then you hold it firmly in place. And again, we're using the medium size rings. And yes, it stayed. And if you just kind of make sure as you're kind of doing this, because once you have a few boxes, it'll definitely stay, unless again the rings are super, super loose. But usually it will stay. So now you have a beautiful seamless transition from medium rings, or from the large rings to the medium rings. So, and this is also especially helpful when you have multiple colors, because it will kind of blend the two colors together. Like if I have a different Like if I have a different color of the medium rings rather than the black ring, like for example, a lot of times people will ask for a blue body with black accents. So I'll use the large rings for the black accents, but then I'll have the blue rings from the blue body. And so as I can blend those together and make it look much better than if it's too choppy. So yeah, I mean, it still looks great. It still looks good. I mean, most people wouldn't probably notice a small detail like that, but I just think that it gives it an extra little look of professionalism, just like it was meant to be this way. Just like it, I get it, just like it just flows. Like it's not separate sizes of rings. It's just a tail. It's just a dragon tail tapering off like dragon tails do. So anywho, I think unless someone else hops on, I'll probably just finish the tail and call it a day. Because now there's no one watching. But, I mean, 2 people watched. So, I mean, that's pretty good. And you're watching right now if you're watching this. So, perhaps my words will not be in vain. Because somebody will see it. Oh, right. I have to transition this one too. Or was I going to transition it? No. I'm just transitioning it into purple because I don't have the exact shade of blue. I mean, that's pretty close, but not close enough for me. So, we are going to not transition in this purple. I mean, we will transition in the purple, but not in this purple. We're going to transition in the small rings after we finish the medium. All right, so let's see, what should I talk about now that there is no one to talk to? Hey Siri, give me a random topic of conversation.
Okay, I found this on the web for give me a random topic of. Check it out.
But I can't. My hands are full, Siri. You were just supposed to be, hey Siri, give me a random topic.
Okay, I found this on the web for give me a random topic.
Hey Siri.
Check it out.
Hey Siri. Give me a random word.
I found an answer. It's displayed on your iPhone.
What is this? Oh, she just gave me the definition of random. That's nice. Thank you, Siri. You are so helpful. I mean, you are helpful. Just maybe not in this instance. Oh, I should probably just click on the random topic generator, huh? Hey Siri, what's a random word?
I found an answer. It's displayed on your iPhone.
Random word. Or maybe it is giving me, I don't know. I can't, you know what, just, never mind. I'll talk about, don't know. I like talking to people. But what's the point of talking if I'm not talking to anyone? I mean, I know I'm going to be talking to somebody maybe in the future, but I don't know what they want me to talk about. I feel like one of the things that I find super fascinating and awesome about social media is the ability to interact with people and interact with people in real time and get real feedback. So when I don't get any feedback, it's kind of sad because I feel like that's a huge thing about social media, and I think it's a lot of too what people kind of miss on social media, that social media isn't just about sharing what you have to say, but it's about listening to what others have to say. And I know that can be harder when you get bigger and bigger, but I still think that it's really important to, respond to comments, to polls, actually like listen to, other things that, people have to say, read comments, things like that. I think that all of that, and not just read comments, but, respond to comments, even if it's just like a heart, that's still a response. Like they know that you saw it and that you liked it. So I feel like that's something really important. So if you are watching this, feel free to comment below and I will answer you. I mean, it's kind of a goal of mine actually to really answer comments. Like even when I get bigger, I just really want to answer a lot of comments. Maybe when I get super big, I won't be able to answer all the comments. But I'm gonna try. Maybe I'll have to hire some people to answer comments. Because, I mean, I feel like that's just so important. And I would definitely try to respond to lots of comments. Oh, and that's another thing that I'm doing for my 100 sub special, which I have not done yet. But I will do. Is I'm basically making 100 comments and replies. So I think that that's cool. And all have to be positive. No negative. A positive or uplifting comments. Even if it's a critique, it can still be uplifting, even if it has something like that in it. So not to you know, whitewash everything, like everything's awesome all the time, but I feel like we just need a lot more positivity in our lives, I feel like we get enough negativity. Sometimes you just need someone to say, "Hey, I really liked your video. I thought it was really insightful and well done." And not just also has to be thoughtful. I can't just say lol. That doesn't count as a comment. So, I'm planning on doing that for as many subscriber milestones as I can. So, definitely up to 1,000, maybe even 10,000. Um, and I'm gonna have a notebook where I will make a little tally mark for every comment that I make so I can keep track of how many comments I've made. So yeah, if you want to see that, you should subscribe. Because I think it's pretty cool. So I thought it was a neat idea. I mean, obviously I thought it was cool, or I wouldn't have done it, or plan on doing it. But anyways, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is why you lay things out. Otherwise, you have to count them a million times. So this is 6. You have to get to 10. And I don't count the half one that we did. The one that was the with the large ring and the medium ring. I don't count that one as one. So I do 10, 10, and 10 of each rows of each kind, but I don't count the half rows. That's weird. All right. So let's see. I'm using a apparently the Beadsmith pliers, I've had these forever. I tried to get other pliers because they are getting a little decrepit, but I didn't like them, so I went back to these because they had too much of a spring. So it was too hard to do this over and 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 over. And they were also like much like the spring was set much wider, so like they were this wide, so you had to like squeeze them from like all the way out there, and there was a lot more pressure. So I just stuck with these ones. I will probably have to get more though, because sadly these have seen a lot of rings for many years. So, but I don't know. I mean, they still work, so I mean, you know the old saying, if it ain't broke, oh, don't fix it. All right, let's see. I've almost hit the 2-hour mark, which is how fast I said I could make a dragon. But then again, I have been explaining the whole process to you, which would take a little bit longer, and I am actually making good progress. The tail is the second longest thing to do. So, I think. At least it feels like the second longest thing to do. It might even be the longest, even though it doesn't feel like the longest thing to do, because you're doing it in several different sections, so you're doing different things, and it's not as monotonous, I feel like, as the torso. But yeah. So we're actually, it doesn't look like it. But actually, we're not super far from the end. Definitely over halfway, like solidly over halfway. And maybe just a little over halfway at this point, but as soon as we finish the tail, definitely over halfway. Absolutely. I don't know, we'll see. We'll have to see how much. I don't know if I'm going to I don't know if my back is gonna give out. I might have to do a second part to this. But also the competitive side of me is like, you must finish all in one sitting. But then the lazy part of me is like, but your back kind of hurts. Also, you don't need to finish all of it in one sitting. Especially, like, literally one sitting, because, like, I haven't gotten it. Oh, that's better. Man, my tray is not stable because it's on top of, like, half on top of a. Oh, I see. Okay. It's annoying that this keeps moving. I'm sure it's annoying me. Oh, there we go. Perfect. All right. Sorry about that. Just some technical difficulties. So, we're almost to the end of this section of the tail, and now we're going to start in. We're going to start in on the last portion of the tail. Oh, there we go. That's the solution. Problem solving. We're going to start it on the last piece of the tail. Soon, after I count this again. And what I'm doing is I'm just counting these little knobs, the little boxes, because they kind of mark the boxes. So 1, 2, 3. Whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then this will be 7. So And I mean, you don't have to do exact. I mean, you could do 9. But I'm just trying to make it exact. That's all. Okay. Okay. Here we, oops. Never mind. All right, so this is going to be 8. I do apologize for my dodgy camera. It's just a webcam. I was going to use my phone, which would be a better camera, but alas, apparently now they made it. I did it before, so I know it had been a rule. The rule changed. But apparently now you cannot stream live on mobile unless you have 1,000 subscribers. So yeah. No. All right, so that's 8. So we should need 1 more. Okay. You know, it is a little less motivating when the little number 0. Oh, it's fine. You know, can't all be winners. Can't all be winners instantly. Oh, All right, 1 more. Here we go. I really hope this microphone isn't awful when I go back and listen to this video. All right. So now here, this should be the last. Wait, I think this should be the last one. This is why you do rows, people. Okay. Here we go. Now. Now we're doing one final count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. So we have 10. All right. So now you can more easily see what I was kind of talking about with the transition. It's a little bit more smooth, I feel like, than, I mean, of course you're really micromanaging it right now, but like just like looking at it, like I feel like it's pretty good. I'm happy with it. That's the best way I've found to transition the 2 pieces together. And now we're going to do the same transition, same way, just with the small rings. So here we have some of the purple small rings. And I know I have more than these couple that are left in here. All right. Where's that little bag that I picked up? Because I had a little bag, because what happened is, remember how I said my thing. So all these got mixed up, including the purple one. And so, oh, here's a few more in here. But there's a bag that has a bunch of mixed, bunch of things mixed together. So, a bunch of different colors, you know, mixed together. So this is what I was talking about earlier. You can buy multicolored packs. So I'll do that, and then I can have, and if I have enough of them or enough different colors, then I can use the multicolored packs and not buy all the individual colored packs. But if you were going to do this and you didn't have any rings, then you would have to buy each color that you would buy, that you would want. And so it'd be a little bit more expensive probably for you. Oh, where is it? Oh, here we go. See, a bunch of purple in here. All right. So now, all right. So here we go. We've got some purple, and we're going to open and close. We're actually not going to use a lot of purple because we're going to transition right into the blue because we have a lot of purple here. So we're just going to transition straight into the blue. But we are going to need a couple just to get it started. And of course, to do the transition. Okay, I can do this. All right, also be warned, you can even see on my hand, see, look how shiny it is. That's callus forming and it's getting red. Because opening and closing, even with nice pliers like these that don't have a lot of resistance, yeah, opening and closing your hand a ton of times in the same way can kind of wear on your hands. And also, like, when I was doing this a lot more, I didn't get, like, any cramps or, like, I mean, I don't really get cramps, but, like, my hand will get sore or, like, the next day my hand will be super sore. So I don't think that'll happen because I've done it enough, but like when you don't do it for a while, you know, and like I had calluses on my hands when I was really doing it a lot because like this will rub like right here. Anyways, where's the, need two more. Boop. Okay. So we have, again, just like we did before, just with the different sizes of rings, just with the medium and the small rings. Oh, hello. Hello, whoever is watching. Welcome, Monarch of the Internet. I am just starting to transition into the last portion of the dragon tail. The dragon should look something like this. So we're just doing this last portion right here, and then we get to do the fun part. We get to do some scales. Oops, it's fine. So I did this body, and now I'm just going to do the transition from the medium scales into the small. So how you do that is from your box chain, you're doing your normal box chain, except I'm going to take, instead of doing the same size rings, I'm going to do the medium into, hi Dave again, I'm going to do the medium rings into the small rings. So again, just doing your normal box chain, just like we did before. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use the two open rings that are medium and then the two closed rings that are small. All right, and again, you're going to want to try to tuck these in. They might not tuck in right away, but just make sure to keep tucking them back in. And then they will eventually stay. So just to clarify, you're grabbing onto the tiny rings. These are a little smaller than the other ones, so it's a little bit harder. But you're taking your new tiny rings that you're using and you're grabbing onto the tiny rings on the inside. And then you're just transitioning once more. And again, just follow the footsteps, go through. Yeah, it's a little finicky, but you go through the two tiny rings And then the other 2 tiny rings that you just put on. Sorry, that was a little out of frame. And then, because you've tucked those in, you're going to transition these out. And these are actually a little bit tight. Usually I don't think they're quite this tight. So this is going to take a little finagling on my part. So as you can see, sort of, these don't want to split far enough for these to go in. So we're actually going to have to tuck these in as well, which I think you do normally have to do, but it's usually not quite this tight. So we'll see how this goes. This is actually so tight that they're kind of popping into place. So these are not coming out now because I just popped them into place. So now that is snugly resting inside those rings. All right, so now we're just going to start doing the transition from the purple into the blue. And we're going to do that in basically the same way as we did the transition from the black into the purple. Okay, so we're just going to start doing our opening, rings. So we have those open, and then these ones are closed, or well, we're going to do one closed of the blue, and then another here. And then move on to 2 blue. So we're going to do one closed and one open blue. And then we're going to do one. We're going to do one open blue. We'll do 2 open blue. This is kind of also feeling it out and just kind of knowing how the chainmail works. I hope you had a good conversation with your daughter, by the way, Dave. All right, so now we're going to do 3. Maybe I should do... No, I think that is right. So, should we do 2? I don't know. Can't remember how I did it. Just going to wing it. Then we're going to do 3. And voila. Now we will be doing 100% blue, which is a very pretty blue. I love how these colors go together. It does a very, good color choice. Losing rings is just part of the job description. You wouldn't believe how many rings I just find lying around. Like, not just in my room, but then all over my house, because they'll, like, stick to the bottoms of your feet, and then you walk around and... yeah, I don't know. And then sometimes I work on them in other areas of the house, or they, like... sometimes, especially, I'm usually pretty good now, but sometimes the rings can go flying. Especially when you get to certain parts, like the wings. Rings can definitely go flying. So, like, because if you accidentally miss... yeah, it's hard to explain, but when it happens, it happens. Because you're like, things will slip, and then you will be left with, well, I mean, you won't be left with a ring because it will be gone and you'll never see it again. All right. Oops. Just a few more. I can take this opportunity to unmix some of the rings that accidentally got mixed. You can see all these rings are linked together. If you're wondering why, probably not, but if you were wondering why, it's because they actually come like this in transit sometimes. Sometimes like 1 or 2 will accidentally get linked together, and then you just have to unlink them. But because remember, they're not fully open or fully closed, so you can unlink them. Sometimes they just get like mixed around, and then they like one will actually. But sometimes they actually, when they cut them off, because what they do is like it's a giant roll, like a spool of thread kind of. So it's a giant roll, and then they'll just take the saw and they go, "Meow." And so sometimes then when they do that, then they'll kind of twist and fall together. And so then you can get kind of longer strands of like 4 or 5 all strung together, which is sometimes a little annoying, but I usually use those for the open rings and use the single ones for the closed rings so that I don't have to spend time trying to untangle them. So yeah, but usually they're not too tangled, but some just tangle more than others for some reason, or some just came off the line more tangled than others. Okay, well, okay, so let's see. We need 10 rows, so how close are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We only have 6 rows. Oh, I'm getting tired, guys. Or guy, one guy. Shout out to Dave again. But I'm at least going to finish this tail. Or at least the bulk of the tail here. And then maybe I'll do a part 2. And maybe someone else will show up for part 2. Probably not. But at least I'll be able to put these on my channel, and so then other people can watch them. Which you might be one of them right now. So thank you once again for choosing to watch my video. Because there's a lot of other things that you could be choosing to do right now. But you chose to watch a girl make a dragon out of rings for a long time. Or maybe it's playing in the background. I don't know. So maybe you're not watching. Maybe you're listening. But I don't know why you would just listen. Because, I mean, maybe I don't feel like my voice is that soothing or that I have that many interesting things to talk about. As you can probably tell because I asked Siri for a random topic to talk about. But I suppose if you are watching it or not watching it, just listening, I guess that would also make more sense because it's kind of a slow process. But I like it. I like things that are more like, I feel like that's another reason why I didn't gravitate towards instruments as much. Because instruments, like, it's very immediate. It's not, I mean, yeah, you practice it over and over. And I do like performing, so maybe this isn't it. But I don't know. It's like you're on stage and like you have one chance to get it right. And like if you mess it up, like you can't cover it up. Like everybody knows that you messed up. You know? Whereas with stuff like this, if I mess it up, I can take it apart. I can take my time with it. So it might take me a really long time to do, or like embroidery or things like that. So it might take a really long time to do, but oops, I don't want it to be like that. I'll switch it in a second. See, like even now, I just messed up. Like I decided that I didn't want, because if I do it like this, then there's going to be 2 blue rings on this side. But I want the blue ring to be on the other side. But look, if I was like performing, oh well, I messed up. Which, total respect for people who do that. And also, I still do enjoy performing. But like with a musical instrument, if you mess up a note, you mess up a note. Like there's no changing it. But like for me, I can just take off this ring and just put it on the other side. And that's it. Like, it's fixed. And no one is the wiser except all the people watching this video, which is not very many. So no one will know. Like, the person I'm making this for will get it. And they'll never know that I, quote, messed up. Because I can just fix it. But with like an instrument, there's only one right way to do it. And everybody knows exactly, I mean, maybe not exactly, but you can usually tell if somebody messes up. I mean, for really complicated things, sometimes, I mean, it's probably just like, wow, that sounds amazing. And then it's like, people are like, oh, I made a mistake. But, and you don't notice. But, like, I also really love doing magic. And with magic, I make mistakes all the time. Like, even my, probably one of the best performances, or if not the best performance of all time, I made a huge mistake. At least one huge mistake. I'm gonna post it actually soon. I really want to post that. Um, but I made a huge mistake. But I fixed it. I played it off like a joke, or I just moved on and nobody remembered, and I fixed it. And but with other performance kinds of things, you might not know. I mean, even with acting, I kind of like acting too. Yeah, you can mess up your line, but also sometimes, you can save it. Like you can, sometimes it's even better sometimes than what was originally planned. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's not a fair comparison, but anyways, I don't know how you feel about it, Dave. But yeah, it hasn't been a super long day for me actually, to be honest. I'm sorry you had a long day though. That was me yesterday. Yesterday was my long day. Oh dear. Today is a little bit more of a relaxed day. But I mean, it's gotta be. I just spent, I'm gonna spend 2 hours and 30 minutes working on a dragon. I mean, I guess it's still work, but it's a little bit more of relaxed work, I feel like. And I'm doing something fun. I mean, I enjoy doing it, so. And I even get to do a YouTube video, which I have a large lack of YouTube videos, which is sad because this is really what I want to spend my time doing. Um, but yeah. Did I teach you how to use commas, Dave? I probably did at some point. I mean, commas are tough, man. I probably don't even know all the nuances. I don't know all the nuances of commas or grammar. I mean, I do try. Okay, so when I was homeschooled, and when um and my mom made us do these grammar workbooks that I hated so much. It was just pages and pages and pages of literally just like commas, when to use semicolons and commas, and she'd have us do them over and over and over, and there was like 6 different levels or something ridiculous. And I hated it. But then, when as I grew older, I was like, wait, that was actually really helpful. Thanks, Mom. So now I do know a lot of things like about commas, and I mean, I'm by no means perfect, but thanks, Mom. You were right. I feel like moms are right most of the time. I mean, not all the time, but in my personal, biased, and one narrative experience, mom's usually right. At least my mom is usually right. My mom's really great. You can see her in some of my videos. She made my most popular video, basically, because she did the cupcake video. I mean, I edited it and filmed it, but I mean, she's the one that made the cupcakes. I mean, she actually did 2 cupcake videos, which is actually kind of funny because the one cupcake video hardly has any views, and then the other cupcake video has a ton of views, which I can kind of see why, because the one cupcakes were really cool. But still, the other cupcakes were cool too. And a lot easier, I feel like anybody could have done that. But she's amazing. She's a great baker. Oh, she did another cake video. She's really good at cake. making cakes. So yeah, my mom's awesome. Actually, she's in a lot of my videos. Now that I think about it, I'm thinking back on all my videos. She's actually in a lot of videos, and she's helped me on a lot of projects. So my mom's awesome. I love my mom. All right, are we almost there? So close to the end of the tail. All right, here we go. All right. I think I actually didn't make enough though, so I think I'm going to need to do a few more extra. Isn't that gradient though? Isn't that beautiful? Like, come now. So yeah, I think that is really cool. Oh, look at that all together. Whoo! I knew it was gonna look awesome. I'm so happy with this. Anyway, okay. Oh, I'm so happy with this tail. It's so beautiful. I hope the person I'm making for it likes it as much as I do. All right, we need a few more blue, and then we're done. How many blue do we need? Oh, let's see. We did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we need 2 more sets. So we need 8 more blue rings. And then we can do scales. Scales are awesome. I have really pretty scales. Okay, this one more than we need, but it's okay. Because we're gonna need a lot more. Well, I guess we're probably not gonna use the blue ones. We're probably gonna use black for some of the other accent pieces. Because we're gonna have a lot of blue. But I digress. I really love doing this because it really is like an art piece. Like, you're not just slapping colors on them, especially when I have lots of options. Because before, sometimes when I would do it, then I would have, oh, thank you, Dave. I'm glad you think it's awesome. Because sometimes before when I would do it, I would only have black and then like one other color. I would only have, a couple things, like a couple different things. But now I kind of have a mix, and so I can kind of bring them all together and make something really awesome and like make creative decisions and stuff like that. So I think this one's going to be really pretty. I think the color choice is really awesome. My next one too, I have another one that I'm doing. I have another order. And okay, they picked some funky colors, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, because it was like, okay. So I think they wanted a black body. Or not a black body, but they said they wanted it to be mostly black and purple. But with bright green and orange accents. And I was like, oh no. But then I put the colors together and I realized they actually look really awesome. Like really, really awesome together. And I was like, what is going on? So I put together the colors that I had for those, and I'm really excited to make that one too, because that's not a color. I usually recommend people to not pick more than 3 colors. But it just looks so beautiful. It's gonna look awesome. I mean, I would not make a dragon unless I thought it was gonna look awesome. I would have recommended her to take up a color, but I think all 4 of those colors are going to look amazing together. So anyways, last 2 boxes on the box chain. Okay. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to make this in a part 1 and a part 2 daily, because it's not the best setup. I probably need to do this on like a table. Maybe next time we'll try to do it on a table. I was trying to figure out how to set up the camera. I guess I should have tried doing it at the desk. I usually do it on this, but I usually don't sit for such a long time and do it, you know? Like I usually don't do it for 2 hours and 30 minutes straight without like standing up at all or anything. So, all right. Here, we're so close to the last box chain. Yes! Okay. So now, what we're gonna do. So we're gonna add this. Okay. So we're gonna look really quick again at the order, just to make sure that I have this correct. All right. Black body, purple and light blue scales and accents. And of course, some of the scales have in the pattern, which I have. So here is the blue. Isn't it so pretty? Oh, beautiful. Okay, so we have 10 of those. Okay. And for the purple, ooh. Okay, also note, I don't, this is where I keep the scales. Can't really see, but in box. Anyway, so I need 26 scales in total. I have 20 scales here at the moment. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some black scales. Ooh, there's more blue. Ooh, I could do decisions. The fun part. This, right. Can't believe there's some shiny ones in here. Shiny ones are a little more expensive. It looks like some of them got beat up. That's weird. No, but I black though is gonna look good because these don't. I mean, one, they're kind of beat up. That's the only problem with the Ring Lord sometimes, is sometimes their stuff is a little beat up. Red, jade, and aqua blue are good dragon colors. Red jade. What do you mean by red? Red jade. Do you mean just like a bright red? Because jade is green. But do you mean just like a bright, like vibrant red? I mean, like this is a little bit of a darker red. Looks a little brighter in the camera, but it's a little bit of a darker red. All right. Let's see. We have mounts here. Usually I will organize them, so I'll organize them by color in that bin that I just showed you. I was just trying to see if I could find enough black. Just, I mean, I could use some purple as well, but I feel like if I do, we're gonna have to see. Most of the time what I'll do is I'll do the body, right? And then whatever's kind of left over, I'll do in the tail, because usually the tail, you know, like you don't have to have necessarily a super specific pattern for the tail, but for the body, obviously, you want to have a super specific pattern. So there's kind of some default patterns that I do. For this one, I'm probably going to go with, just because of what I have, and etc., etc. Man, these are thicker than usual. Must be why they're in here. So, like a shiny candy apple red color. Red shade. I can definitely see how that would be a really awesome color. I have some that are kind of like that. And I would have a shiny red apple color, except they only make the matte rings, which the matte rings do look cool, but like, why did they stop making the shiny ones? Like, there's literally no reason for them to stop making the shiny ones. Oh, look, there's 6. Okay, so we have, oh, it's a ring. So, actually, it's too chaotic. I'm going to get rid of. These are still for sale. Look at how, look, he's calling too. Okay, so, I'm sorry, I digress. Just gonna get rid of these out of the way. There we go, that looks a little cleaner. So, now I'm going to organize the scales. So, let's start with, let's start with blue, purple, black. And so I could do another purple and then a blue. I feel like that's the range. Or I could start over and do blue again, but I feel like because we're doing the gradient kind of theme, we're going to keep that. So we're going to do then the blue. I mean, you know what I mean. The purple, and the blue again, and then the black, blue, purple, black, purple, blue. I'm gonna need 20, so. All right. Black, blue. I mean, I like that. But, I like that better. I'm going to go with that instead. Okay, so we're going to do this. Huh. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. No, we're going to do every other. Let's try that. So we're going to go doot, and then break it up with black. We go doot, and then break it up with black. Or I could do every 3. No, that won't work. No. Every 4. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. 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 They are quite shiny. I really, you're right, Dave. They are really shiny. I do like using a combination of like the dull and the shiny together, or like there's a couple other textures of there's a couple other textures that you can get as well. And I really like using a combination of all of them because I think it gives it a really nice dimension. Like if they're all shiny, I mean it's a look, but like even you can see here, like these are mostly shiny, but there's a couple that are not quite as shiny. They're more matte. And I feel like it gives it a lot more dimension than just having them all shiny or all matte or all brushed or whatever. So, whoops, and that, and then that. So the shiny ones are very pretty. I would actually personally probably rather have shiny scales on my dragon, like shiny wings, rather than patterned wings. Just because the pattern wings you can't get shiny. But they're both good. I don't know. They're just different. It's just just different feel, you know? Excuse me. All right. So there. All right. And we should have 6 left. So it looks like that's perfect. And actually that is perfect because the black ends on the black tail, which will then transition, help the whole dragon transition. There we go. And this is 20, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Boom. Perfect. And then we've got these 6 that we need for the tail. So now we have what do I have? What do I have? What do I have? Oh, I had some more black. I knew I had some other black scales somewhere. Couldn't find them and I was looking for them. Now I forget what I was looking for. Clasp. Because what I do is I actually put a clasp into the tail of each dragon. So that it's fine. So that you can use it and wear it as jewelry. And you can also attach to things, but it's mostly for this so that you can use it as jewelry. You can wrap it around your hand and like so. Sometimes I'll put either a ring or a chain so that you can wrap it around your hand, and then the tail, and then you can have the clasp attached in the back like this. So that's why that's there. So I hide the clasp in the tail. So if you don't want to use it as jewelry, you don't have to. But right, so we got a couple more. We need a couple more of those. All right, so now what you need is 5 open you need 5 open tiny rings. Preferably the same color you just used for the tail. I mean the end of the tail. Okay. So you take the first one and you act like you're going to do a box chain. I'm sorry, I just read Dave's comment. Oh, adding some that aren't shiny is cool. It's like a bunch of extroverts and their little introvert friends that they adopted. That is the most unnecessarily adorable way of explaining it. Of explaining anything like this that I have ever seen. That is gold. I'm gonna have to remember that. I'm gonna have to use that, man. Oh dear. Oh goodness. Okay. So now you add those so that they're facing each other. So it's like a little pocket because these scales are kind of concave, you know? Concave is the right word, right? I hope it is. So you add it like that. And now you add another ring. Now you might ask, why do I need to add another ring? It's already attached. Well, you add another ring because it gives the tail structure. If you don't add this other ring, and the other ring that I'm going to add in a second, then the tail will lie flat. See how this is like a little tent? You don't add that second ring, they'll all be flat. So add the second ring. Alright, I mean, unless you want a flat tail. I mean, you can do whatever you want if you're making it, but me personally, I think it's cool when they're not flat, so that's what I'm going to do. Alright, so now I'm going to take this one, and I guess black one, and just for your information, the middle scales are the ones you don't see quite as much in the tail. Kind of, at least, in my opinion. So, if you have a color you don't like as much, or you feel like it's showing too much, put it in the middle row, because we're going to add 3 rows of this. So again, I'm attaching it with 2 rings. Literally all I'm doing is just attaching them to each other. Like there's not, it's just a chain link. See, 2 on 2. And then just these so they lay over each other. Oh, hi, Mr. Vlandis. Yes, I'm having much fun, especially because I've been doing this for nearly 3 hours now. So much fun. But this is the fun part. See, I just laid out all the scales. So this part brings me a lot of joy. Alright, so now for the very last one, you are only going to do 1 ring instead of 2. So, and thank you for the like. So, you're going to do the same thing. Sometimes, if you're confused about which way they need to lay the scales, if you're confused about which way the scales need to lay, all you need to do is just hold it like this. So you just hold it open ring, don't close it. Or if you're confused about which way you want the scales to lay, and then just put them on how you want them to be. So this one I'm doing to the outside. And now what I'm doing is I'm going to put the clasp in between the 2 scales so it's hidden. It's a secret clasp. Secret clasp. Secret clasp. Probably nobody gets that reference. Probably because there's only 2 people in here. But secret. Okay. And then you just close that. And now you have a secret clasp. Boom. Along with your amazing tail. Look at that. Look how beautiful that is. Boom. And it's a tent and not flat. Alrighty. So now, what you can do is I'm going to take a tiny ring. You can use a medium ring. You can even use a large ring. I'm just deciding that in this moment I'm going to use a tiny ring. So you take your tiny ring and you hook on, because remember these two that we did in the beginning, these were just anchors to hold on to. So we're actually going to take these two rings off, but they're still helpful as anchors right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to hook onto the actual box part of the box chain with this tiny ring. And then we're going to take our body, which we have neglected for probably the past hour. And we're going to find the side that is, how do I explain this? Look, see how this side is floppy? Longer, floppy. This side, short. No flop. This is the side we want. So, we're going to pretend like this tiny ring that we have is a medium-sized ring, and we're adding another link to the European 4-in-1. So we're going to hook on to those middle two rings, in through the first one, up through the second one. And yes, this could take a little bit of finagling. Just be patient with it. And then close it. Oops. And now we can take off those rings that we just used for anchoring. So we can hold on to. Sometimes I've even worked it directly into the body, the tail, like I've woven it directly into the body, because a box chain is basically a folded over European 4-in-1 with an extra ring connecting the two folded sides. However, it's probably more trouble than it's worth, because, which is why I don't do it anymore, because, I mean, I think I did it a couple times, and I mean, it looks cool, but the thing is, the scale is going to sit right there. So anything you do, you're not going to see it. So I just, oh no, how did I mess this up? Anyways, so anything you do, you're not going to see it. So just use a tiny ring. If you used a big ring, you might see it. Just use a tiny ring. That's why you have a tiny ring. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is probably, honestly, I think I'm pretty much out. I think I'm gonna take a break now. Thank you so much for watching. I will make a part 2 probably in the next, well, probably tomorrow. I'll make a part 2 and I'll finish this out. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.